Truncated cone. Okay. I was thinking to call it cup because cup is only 2 letters. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me use T cone. Okay. I don't want to type too much. So I'm going to switch to a bigger font later. But the first thing I want to do is I want to create a class. Okay. So I'm going to create call it tcone, tcone.h, the header file, and I'm going to also create another one, and the second file would be new class, new file, tcone cpp. Yes. So now I'm ready to do the bigger font. So the right hand side is the header file. So for my header file, I do want to put my all declaration inside a if not defined something. Okay, cone demo h, and then define cone demo h, and I want to close that and if section, and I'm going to make a class. I call it oops, I'm in C++, not in Java. Cone, and I do want to declare private data, and my private data will be just the vertex array and buffer array. Okay. And I do want to use a vector. It will be easier for me to work with. And I'm going to include vector using namespace std. Okay, I know in my other examples I'm using vector of glm vector. I don't have to do that. Okay, I can just declare a vector of float. Okay, and then let me call it vertices. And for the index, I do want to use a vector of glu short, and let me call it the index. Okay, and vector, yep, and private. So the public, you just need like mainly 2 methods. The first method is to build your object. You can call it whatever you like. Okay, and oops, I don't want to put the body of the method here. I just want to declare the signature of that method, and the other method will be the render method, and that will be a const method. So then I can now start writing the body of those methods, the functions I should say. Include tcone.h, and then I can now write my, I think I do want to put a destructor in here, just to make sure that my memory allocation is clean. So the build method, the build function should say tcone or void tcone build, and my render function should say tcone render const. And what do I need to do in build? I need to allocate the buffer. Okay, so generate buffer, generate buffers, and the first one is for my vertex buffer, and the second one is for my index buffer. Okay, and then I'm ready to generate those points, right? And I want generate those points, and then maybe let me put the number of subdivision. Let me call it endpoints. Okay, we do have what, 13? Okay, and what do I need here? I just need to generate the top vertices. So I need a loop, right? And I need a loop. My loop will begin at 0. And I do need to know how to increment the angle. So let me call it delta. So the increment the angle would be 360 divided by a number of points. But 360 you have to express in radian. So then I have to say m pi divided by number of points. Okay. So I get my delta, and then I do need to generate the xy coordinate. And I do need to know the radius, the top radius, the bottom radius, okay? And you know the height, cone height, some number again. I'm going to make it 0.5 because I'm going to make my object centered on the origin. So the top will be minus 0.5, the bottom of the z will be plus 0.5 or minus, yeah, you know what I mean. Okay, so then I do want to generate points from the top. Okay, so the first loop to generate points in the top ring. So my x coordinate would be top radius times cosine of the angle, and I do have to start my angle at 0, and here I want to multiply that by cosine angle. Same thing for y, and for y I'm going to use sinus, and then I can now push the points, right? Okay, so I can push the points, and then let me compile, or just what is the name of my array? Vertices, okay. But now because I'm not using vector of GLM vector 3, I'm using GLM vector of float. That means I need to push 3 times. 1 for x, 1 for y, 1 for z. Yes?
You're missing an F.
Thank you. Okay. So then vertices push back my x, vertices push back my x, and then vertices push back my y. And then for the top, let's say I want to push a positive z. Okay, I'm going to use the cone height. Actually, that's like half of height. I'm cheating here. Okay, and then I can repeat those loop. Now for the bottom, okay, then the only thing I need to change is just changing the minus on the z value, right? Yes, please.
Yeah, change it to cone height, not cone demo h.
Thank you. Okay, so we take care of the top vertices, the bottom vertices, and we do need one more point to make the center, right? Okay, so that center will be the easiest point, and make sure you do it in the right order, because in my whiteboard before, I placed the last point, the top point, as the last item in my array. Josh? You're right. You're right. This is more than pair programming. Angle plus equal delta. Same thing for the other one. Yep. Okay. And then now I'm going to push the top center point. And what is the coordinate of the top center point?
0, 0.
0, x is 0, y is 0. Okay, this is x. and this is y, and z is cone height. Okay, so now the next step is to prepare my indices, right? So what is the pattern here? So I can easily generate the first 24 by using a loop, but then I just need to do that number, okay? So now to fill in the vertices, so I want to start with another loop that will repeat. Let me just do it n points time. Okay, so how do I push those numbers? I do want to push it to index, push back, okay, because that's the name of my index array is here, right? So index push back, the first point will be k, and the pair of k is k plus endpoints. Are you with me? Okay, so we fill up all the way to here. Okay, all the way to here. Okay, and then you need to put the last pair to close, and I will do that outside of the loop. Okay, so I will do it outside of the loop. So I'm going to put 2 more values there, and for index push back, and that number will be 0 again, and endpoints. So now we complete the indices for so close the quad strip index for the wall. Okay, so now I do want to start the index for my top circle. But I do want to start with that number, right? And what is that number? The easiest is just do it 2 times endpoints, right? Okay, so that number is exactly 2 times endpoints. Okay, so so let me put a comment here. First index of the triangle fan. So the first index of the triangle fan would be index push back endpoints times 2, and then I can now write a loop again that will repeat endpoint times so now this will be the index of the rest of the triangle fan. So index push back and k, and I do have to close the loop again. That means I do have to push back 1 more number, which is 0. Close the last arc of the triangle fan. Okay, so I think our indices are complete. Question? Yep. 38. Thank you. Yes. Anything else? Luis?
The starting point of your fan.
Starting point of my fan. Yep.
Yeah.
Line 53.
Yeah, mind, you declared it, so you're just calling. Never mind. I guess.
Okay. Anything else? Questions? So we prepare everything in our CPU memory. Then the next step is to copy them to the GPU memory, right? Okay. So now copy everything to GPU memory. So then the big step now is copy the two arrays, the two CPU arrays to GPU memory. Okay. So then I do need to allocate. I need to activate one of them. So I need to call bind buffer here, bind buffer, and I want to do the array buffer. Let me compile. Make sure that I don't have any major compile error for now. And the name of my buffer is vbuff. Okay, and now I can just allocate using buffer data. Wrong constant for the first one. It should say buffer, array buffer. So I can now allocate and copy at the same time. Buffer data GL array buffer. What is the second argument? I need to look at the API. Here, so target size data and usage. Target size data and usage. The target is array buffer, and the size would be number of bytes. So the second argument would be number of bytes. The number of bytes will be, this is for my vertex array. So let me switch back to big font. So the second argument will be the size of my array. That will be vertices size times size of float. Size of float. Okay, question about that expression. Okay, and the third argument is the source of my data. I can just put vertices.data here. And the fourth argument is the type, how you're going to use the memory here. I've been using GL dynamic draw. Okay, I don't have to use the dynamic draw. I use dynamic if you want to change the vertex array in your GPU several times. But if you just want to initialize one and use it for drawing, and you can just call it a static draw. Okay, so I'm going to just make it as a static draw type of array. And so the fourth argument will be GL static draw. Okay, and then I can now say bind buffer GL array buffer. I want to deselect. Technically, I want to select, copy, and then deselect. So that will be the sequence. Array buffer 0. Okay, so let me put a comment here. Select the buffer. And then the second action is to allocate and copy. Allocate in GPU and copy from CPU. And the third call is to deselect. Deselect the buffer. And I can repeat the second step for my index array. I want to bind buffer, and the type will be element, GL element array buffer, and my index buffer is ibuff, lowercase. And I can repeat the copying and the allocation and the unbinding or the selection, and make sure that we change that to element array buffer, and the size of memory would be index size times size of, not float but GLU short. okay, because my type is GLU short for index. And I don't have to change my allocation, and of course the data will come from index data, and I'm using the same type, static draw, and then deselect, and when I deselect I have to say element buffer 0. Okay, question about the building. Yes, please.
On question on 78 and
78?
71, you have a capital U. It should be lowercase.
78.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah. Buffer and buffer up there. I put the wrong constant here. It should be GL element array buffer.
Is there a reason you use GLU short for the type of that vector instead of just like an int?
To save space for the index.
Yeah.
Yeah, index.
Save space.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't need 4 bytes. We don't need like integer is like 2 million something, right? It is unlikely you're going to build an object with 2 million vertices. Okay, so short is like 16,000. Yeah, that's a good number. Yes?
Why does that work if when you're adding your indices, you're pushing back integers instead of GLU shorts?
Oh, it's automatic handled by type conversion, internal type conversion. Yeah. Yep. Anything else? Okay. Now, let's compile. Make sure that I don't have any major errors here. And compile. Oh, I need to. Did I add this file to my CMake list? Probably I didn't. So I need to update my CMake list. And previously I have a cone object, but I'm going to delete that. So I'm going to change that to tcone. Okay, so I need to update. I need to add the new source code into my CMake list file. And if looks like we have errors all over here. Okay, let's compile, let's build. Probably missing include or something. Pushback index expected. Okay, I'm not supposed to include. Oh, CLine is too smart. It's inserted the 3 header files for me. I didn't write that. Okay. Okay, what is the error now? GLUINT, unknown type. Yep, of course, because I do have to include. I need to include OpenGL. And for Windows user, that header file will be different. Okay. For Mac user, it is OpenGL/GL. And let's do a build. Pushback. Math. Oh, yep, missing the CMath library. So what's wrong with the tcone destructor?
Yeah.
Oh, yep. Thank you. Yep. Where? Ah, uppercase T. Yep. Tcone. Tcone is there. Tcone. Try again. Build.
You have a straight B. Line 49.
Line 49. Yep. Okay, I didn't include math, the math library that is under CMath. Include CMath. Okay, compile again. What's wrong with this one here? Extra colon T line 20. Public. Oh, I don't use public here. Sorry. This is Java. Okay, you should say void, not public. You know, yesterday in my 163, I was using different coding style, And then suddenly one of the students asked me, why are you using underscores in your variable names? Okay, compile. No error. Good. So now let's do the render. So the render should look like, I have to bind buffer. Okay, I have to bind buffer. I have to bind my buffer, and I have to bind the the index, the vertex array, and the index array. vbuff. Okay, and I will say vertex pointer, and the vertex pointer call requires you to supply 3 arguments, and basically we are telling that each cell in my array has 3 numbers, and the type of those numbers is float, and the last argument is just 0. And the third and last argument is just 0. Okay, and I do have to bind my index buffer, and I do have to bind my index buffer. So bind buffer element array buffer, and it has to be ibuff, and I don't have to say vertex pointer for my index buffer, so I don't have to call vertex pointer. And I just want to make sure that I don't forget at the end I need to deselect again, so I do want to say gl array buffer 0 to deselect my buffer, and I have to do for both of them bind buffer gl element array buffer 0. Okay, deselect the buffers, and then select the buffers at the top, and I can now say glDrawElements. Okay, so we have to make 2 calls. We have to make 2 calls here. So the first draw elements will be to draw the quad strip, right? So gl quad strip, and what is the parameter of glDrawElements? Can somebody look up the API?
Yes.
Count. So count will be 2 times endpoints plus 2, right? Right? Or is it plus 4? Plus 2 or plus 4? 28. 28, right? Okay, it has to be 28. Okay. And then what is the third argument? Type is GLU unsigned short. Unsigned short, and the last one, indices will be, we start from 0. We start from the beginning of the index. Okay, so that will be for the quad strip, and the second call will be for the top circle. And for top circle, I want to render those vertices as a triangle fan, and we do have the same number of points. No, no, it's endpoints plus 1, right? Is that right? Or endpoint plus 2? Is it plus 1 or plus 2?
Plus 1.
Plus 2, because we have to cover the last 0, right? So it will be endpoint plus 2, and same type of data, but then the last argument is not 0 anymore, because the group of those numbers is at 28 times size of GLU short. So the last argument should be 28 will be from okay, 2 times endpoints plus 2, so that will be size of GL use short times n, but you have to typecast everything as a void pointer. Question about the two calls. Compile. No error. Okay, that's good. So then now I can put the object in my main, and let me go to my main. My main is here. So I'm going to put an object tcone, and of course I have to include the header file. The header file has to be included somewhere in here. So include tcone, and I'm going to declare my tcone object, tcone tc, and I have to build the object. I have to build the object inside my make model. So I have to say tcone tc.build, and now I can render my object in my win refresh, which is up here. Okay, tc render. I know it's too small. Okay, but I need to keep the menu open because I have to run it soon. And let's move it away from the origin because we have a sphere, or maybe I just hide the sphere. If I hide the tetrahedron, so then we can see the truncated cone at the center. Cross your finger. What is the error here? T-cone. Oh, the destructor. I forgot to put to write the destructor. Okay, and the destructor is just T-cone. T-cone. And what I want to do inside my destructor is just to delete the buffer. GL delete buffers 1, vbuff, and delete the index buffer as well. GL delete buffers 1, address of ibuff. Okay, and then run and compile. Run, build, no error, that's good. And then run it. Exit code, ignore, okay. Ignore, okay, let's see, let's compare with the other one. I do have cone here. What is missing from my T-cone? Move right. So the allocation of the buffers are correct. Bind buffer, array buffer, yes. Buffer data, we do have that, and we have vertices. Buffer. Okay, let me make a quick update here. I want to comment out the render. I just want to make sure whether the problem is in build or in render. And run it. Okay, so the problem is in render, not in build. So in render, in my render, if I uncomment that, and in my render function, I need to bind the buffer and then vertex pointer. I'm not using buffer pointer there. And then I need to call glDrawElements. So what am I missing?
You need that enabled.
Enable this one? No, we don't have. I don't have to put that.
Disable the color array.
Yes. Thank you. Disable client state of for color array. Color array. And then I want to pop attrib at the end. GL pop a thread. Okay, let's check again. Bind buffer and then vertex.
The first one you need 2 T's and a tree.
Thank you. Disable bind buffer, bind the color buffer, and then call vertex pointer, and then bind the index. We don't have to bind the index buffer. We are not using color array here. And then draw elements, and then bind, deselect the buffer. Okay, let's try again. Yep.
Can you pull the screen or move the image down?
Pull.
It's just in the middle.
What do you want to see? What do you want to see now?
Just
It was just in the middle.
or see. You have the screen up on the whiteboard.
Oh, sorry. There we go. Oh, I didn't notice that the screen is not down. Sorry, guys. Okay, so it's there. So, any question?